In our opinion, jobbers are the unsung heroes of wrestling. They aren't given an entrance, normally given a terrible name, and their wrestling attire looks like something you'd wear when you've forgotten your school sports kit at home. On top of that, they get pulverized by an upper card wrestler, only to move on and hope they are given the same chance a week later for that same $100 check. At times, however, the jobber may have gotten the last laugh over their more successful opponent. In this video, we look at 10 times a jobber shockingly defeated a WWE main event wrestler. Number 1. Jason Arndt pins Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you were around during the Attitude Era, you might recall Shane O'Mac's old friends from the mean streets of Greenwich, Connecticut, the Mean Street Posse. One of the members was Jason Arndt, who played Joey Abs in the group, and some may not know that Abs was actually a legitimate pro wrestler, beginning his career in Matt and Jeff Hardy's Omega Federation. Before he was in the stable, Arndt was brought into the WWE much earlier, and used as enhancement talent during the mid-90s, appearing on Monday Night Raw occasionally. In fact, Arndt was the first man to receive a version of the Stunner in 1996 against the Texas Rattlesnake. Even though his first match was a losing effort against Austin, both he and Eddie Jack managed to get an upset win against him on an episode of Superstars. After interference by the British Bulldog, Arndt managed to cover Austin for the win. This led to a bewildered Austin looking on in total confusion after two jobbers managed to get the biggest wins of their careers. Thank goodness this win didn't kill off the Rattlesnake's career early on. Number 2. Kevin Greo defeats Ted Dibiase. Wow, you want a nameless jobber? Well, here you go. After scouring the internet for literally minutes, there is absolutely no information on the jobber known as Kevin Greo. All we could find out about his entire wrestling career is a few entries on the Internet Wrestling Database, where he teamed with other jobbers like Pat Armstrong and faced the likes of Power and Glory and Haku and the Barbarian. One entry is interesting though, as Greo possesses his only win over the $1 Million Man Ted Dibiase. Yes, the man who almost became WWF World Champion and headlined SummerSlam 1988 with Andre the Giant, lost to a man who had a total of 4 matches in the WWF. How in the world did this happen? Well, this was down to the interference caused by Virgil during their upcoming WrestleMania feud. Virgil managed to keep DiBiase on the outside talking, whilst the referee kept counting, leading to a countout and Greo getting the most memorable moment of his 4 matches in the WWF. Number 3. Dwayne Gil defeats Christian. Dwayne Gil was best remembered for his short run during the Attitude Era, parodying WCW's top star Goldberg as Gilberg. Before that, and for the most part of his wrestling career, Gil had been mostly a jobber, but when the Monday Night Wars reached its peak, upon his return, he started to get wins. Now part of the Job Squad, Gil managed to receive an unexpected win over Mark Merrow, but even better, during an episode of Raw in 1998, he managed to get a title shot against the current light heavyweight champion Christian, who at the time was part of the stable of vampires The Brood. In a shocking twist, Gil managed to defeat the reigning light heavyweight champion in an upset win, something the former world heavyweight champion will never forget. Number 4. Barry Horowitz defeats Skip. Okay, we know what you're saying. Skip was never a main eventer. No, he certainly wasn't in the WWE, but he undoubtedly had a more successful career than many, as one half of the Body Donners holding the WWF Tag Team Championship. Horowitz, on the other hand, was booked as a long-time jobber to the stars, possessing an embarrassing win-loss record of 9 wins and 213 losses. Out of those 9 wins, most of them came from defeating Skip in upset wins, which led to Jim Ross announcing, in utter disbelief. He became the ultimate underdog overnight, gaining his first WWF televised win and even his first and only pay-per-view win at SummerSlam 1995. Number 5. The 1-2-3 Kid defeats Razor Ramon. The win was so significant that Waltman thereafter was known as the 1-2-3 Kid. On the wrestling podcast Something to Wrestle With, Bruce Pritchard, who was there at the time, explained on how the idea set up Waltman's career. We brought Waltman out in the Manhattan Center on Monday Night Raw, and the crowd knew who he was, thank God. But they were chanting Lightning Kid, Lightning Kid. Vince didn't want to use the name Lightning Kid. He looked like a kid, so Vince wanted to keep the kid thing. So each week we'd change Waltman's name from Cannonball Kid, Kamikaze Kid. Each week it would change until something would stick. And the idea was we would get into 3 or 4 weeks when we would get into the Razor match, and Razor would just beat the dog shit out of him, and the kid would catch a quick fall on Razor. What we did not plan, we did not expect, and it was one of those beautiful moments in wrestling after Kid beat Razor, and Razor stood in the ring holding up 2 fingers like, what the hell, and the crowd started chanting 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and Vince was like, he's the 1 2 3 kid, pal, god damn it, we got something here. Scott Hall revealed the win was so impactful that many people on Raw were asking him if he failed a drug test, was suspended, or getting fired, hinting the win was a result of a punishment. Number 6. Maven defeats The Undertaker. The first Tough Enough co-winner Maven Huffman initially shocked wrestling fans by sneakily eliminating The Undertaker at the 2002 Royal Rumble. Well, Maven shocked the wrestling world again on the 7th February 2002 edition of SmackDown when he was given the opportunity to win the Hardcore Championship. Problem was, it was against The Undertaker, who hadn't forgotten who eliminated whom at the Rumble. Whilst it seemed clear who the winner was gonna be, interference by both The Rock. After this huge push, Maven slowly faded into obscurity, making appearances on Sunday Night Heat and Velocity before being released in 2005. It's evident the win over Taker was his greatest achievement during his WWE career. Number 7. James Ellsworth beats AJ Styles. The chinless wonder that is James Ellsworth, a wrestler who possessed the same build as Dwayne Gil, but certainly had the charisma to go much further in the company. He was by no means an intimidating opponent and possessed some of the blandest ring gear in wrestling history. Some would say he was the ultimate jobber, being mowed down by the likes of Braun Strowman and Becky Lynch. But on the 11th of October 2016 edition of SmackDown, the cowardly Ellsworth was booked to beat one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. When Ellsworth appeared on the Talk is Jericho podcast, he admitted once knowing of the plans that it was a total rib on the new guy. However, upon learning the WWE was serious about his feud with Styles, James was terrified. He said, "To the indie guys, AJ is considered a god. He says he never gets scared, but when he found out he was wrestling AJ, he got scared to death." But not only did he beat Styles, he did it again, beating the WWE champion 3 times. And during this feud, he wasn't even under contract with WWE. Number 8. Rico defeats Ric Flair. Admittedly, the term jobber would loosely fit Rico, as even though he was mostly seen as a manager to the ambiguously gay tag team of Billy and Chuck, he was a former 2-time tag team champion. Nevertheless, fans were in total shock when the superstar once known as Rico the Stylist beat the 16-time world champion Ric Flair. The win was certainly in a different caliber to Rico's usual match wins on weekly Velocity shows. It wasn't a clean win, however, as Flair had his hand on the bottom rope, which was missed by referee Charles Robinson. In fact, the win was ultimately tied into an angle they were doing to show Flair's ever-increasing bad luck and showing his elder age. For the purpose of the storyline, WWE still could have had somebody else, at least somebody who was barely on the roster at the time, to defeat Flair. Why they chose Rico is still a mystery. Number 9. The Brooklyn Brawler pins Triple H. Easily the most identifiable jobber in WWE history, Steve Lombardi began his WWE career in late 1983 wrestling under his real name, but he was later repackaged as the Brooklyn Brawler in 1989. Throughout his WWE career, the Brawler was simply used to put bigger stars over and almost never achieving a win. In fact, his first win finally came in when he defeated Brady Boone in 1988, 5 years after his debut. The Brawler was used on screen from time to time throughout the years, never involved in any on-screen feuds or important matches. It was only until 2000 the Brawler achieved the biggest win of his career. In a 3-on-1 elimination match between Kai Tai and the Brooklyn Brawler against Triple H, the Cerebral Assassin managed to make short work of the Japanese duo, until the referee went down and out came Chris Jericho, who performed a bulldog into a lion salt. The opportunistic Brawler quickly made the pin, giving us one of the greatest upsets in SmackDown history. And number 10. Jimmy Jacobs beats Eddie Guerrero. In mid-2005, Eddie Guerrero was in a heated feud with Rey Mysterio, betraying him over the custody of Dominic. On an episode of SmackDown, Eddie was set to face a young Jimmy Jacobs. He entered holding the bloody mask that had been ripped off Mysterio's head, and during the match, Eddie forcefully put the mask on Jacobs. With it on, Eddie would flip, grabbing a chair from the outside and hitting the young jobber with a devastating brainbuster, resulting in a DQ. Whilst this was a win for the young jobber, he paid the price for it. Jimmy Jacobs recently joined the Talk Is Jericho podcast and elaborated on his match with Guerrero. He mentioned, "I went up to Eddie Guerrero and introduced myself and told him that I think that we are going to be working together tonight, and he thanked me for wanting to be in the match with him. He said that he wanted to apologize because the match needed to be all about him, but wanted to thank me anyway for doing it, like I was doing him a favor or something. He said to me that God willing, we will work together again in the future under better circumstances." Well guys, there you have it. 10 times a jobber shockingly defeated a main event WWE wrestler. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like or dislike the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.